The Scott River is one of the most important tributaries of the Klamath River and also one of the highest producers of coho salmon, a species that's threatened under the Endangered Species Act in our region. Here on the East Fork of the Scott River, our team is embarking on an ambitious journey to recover coho salmon, and the Beaver Valley Headwaters Preserve presents an incredible opportunity to do just that. This 6,000-acre property was recently acquired by the Wildlands Conservancy and includes Big Mill Creek and other tributaries. These are headwaters of the Scott River and places that fish need to access in order to survive. This project proposes to do 4 major things. The first is restoration.
The primary components of this project are in-stream habitat restoration across 2 miles of the East Fork of the Scott River. We're going to improve quality winter and summer rearing and spawning habitat for salmon. Next, we plan to address fish passage issues by replacing an outdated perched culvert that's currently blocking access to miles of cold water habitat for coho salmon and other species.
Fish aren't the only ones benefiting from these improvements. The project also includes flow enhancement and groundwater recharge measures that will increase water efficiency and sustainability of adjacent farmlands to protect against the growing threats posed by climate change. Lastly, we've partnered with the Siskiyou County Office of Education and local tribes to bring youth and community members out to participate in hands-on restoration efforts, including helping to build beaver dam analogs to encourage repopulation of native fauna. This educational outreach will be ongoing and will utilize traditional ecological knowledge or place-based knowledge as part of the curriculum. Our strategy is comprehensive and addresses both historical and ongoing environmental challenges. We will enhance habitat complexity and restore vital floodplain access for these endangered fish. This project is crucial. The Scott Valley has a long history of environmental degradation. Trappers, miners, and outdated agricultural practices have had a dramatic effect on local wildlife and the availability of water. And our fish are suffering from that. Work is needed now to move the needle and protect this vulnerable species. Many of the Klamath River tribes rely on these fish for sustenance, for ceremony, and for supporting their culture. And this valley is also important for supporting agricultural interests, and we're here to work on balancing those and restoring this river system.
This property has a really special vision, starting with our work with CalTrout, restoring all the tributaries and the river main stem. The landscape is 6,094 acres, and it includes mountain peaks and ridge lines, as well as 2 miles of river frontage, multiple tributaries, large wet meadows, and between those mountaintops and those meadows are oak woodlands of white and black oak, and really just a mosaic of beautiful habitats that represent Northern California. There's about 2 miles of the East Fork Scott River on this property, including confluences with Noyes Creek, Big Mill Creek, among a few others. And those areas represent high-quality spawning and rearing habitat for coho. There's also beavers here, which we're beaver believers. We want to bring them back and see more of them to create some of those habitat components. The name of this preserve speaks to the past history here, recognizing the Scott Valley was once called the Beaver Valley. This is the Beaver Valley Headwaters Preserve.
One of the great things about the Beaver Valley Headwaters land is that it incorporates multiple cold water tributaries all in sort of one corridor. So it's almost like the gateway to multiple different habitat areas for coho to get to. And so it just presents a huge opportunity to build up this first kind of step into the East Fork habitat for coho and give them a foothold.
In this instance, Highway 3 was built across an important tributary that runs year-round, providing cold water to the East Fork Scott River. A culvert is now perched, providing a 10-foot drop so fish can no longer access this important cold water habitat.
The existing bridge that was built in the live channel and the real channel, and then there was a diversion after the bridge was built. Caltrans ultimately built a structure, a bridge in a creek location that no longer has a creek flowing in it full time. So I think that's really the major problem, and it is preventing some fish passage from happening at that location.
On our initial site visit to this creek, we put on our snorkels, didn't know what we'd find. To our surprise, the pool was full of coho salmon, a literal fishbowl of an endangered species. When we went and looked above the culvert, we found no anadromous salmon.
So what we know about coho is that they can often spawn in these locations that aren't great for rearing. So even if they have some great spawning habitat in the main stem or certain tributaries, those areas may become disconnected. And so then we need those juveniles to be able to seek out and find the refugias that they need to rear through the summer. And what we know is they actually will redistribute, and they'll travel long distances to find those areas. And so when you restore a place like Big Mill Creek, which has that cold water year round, those fish could come from all over the basin and find that area. And that's when we start talking about a population level impact.
When you think of like a fish like the coho salmon, you can't ignore the Scott Valley. If fish have access to groundwater fed channels or groundwater fed habitat, that buffers that summer and that winter temperature extreme.
Caltrans is committed ultimately to fish passage in the state of California. It's part of what we do, it's part of what we're required to do. Now that Wildlands owns the property, we do have a really good strategic partner that will allow us to intentionally make these changes and know that those changes are going to be something that can stand in perpetuity.
So the great thing about this project is that it provides many win-win scenarios. We've talked about the benefits for fish. This project is also going to provide benefits for the farmer as well. So the Wildlands Conservancy is going to get an opportunity to look into management changes in terms of how they operate, how they irrigate, and take those changes and apply them in a way that provides increased flow in stream. And with that success, which we fully expect to have, we're going to be in a position to take what we've learned here and apply it to other locations and other partnerships that we have in the greater Scott River Basin.
Another component of this project is our outreach and education. And we're working with the Siskiyou County Office of Education to bring kids out here so that they can be connected to their local ecosystems and get them out of the classroom and more engaged with their surroundings.
As science educators, we just want to connect the kids with opportunities. When kids come to us on a field trip, even though they're from all these small communities, there's no guarantee that they actually get to be out in the forest and go camping and fishing. We want to get them doing stuff with their hands. We got a full-on forestry component here, opportunities for macroinvertebrates, getting down underneath the water and looking at those bugs and those fish in their habitat. If a property like this became available, it's endless what opportunities we could provide and the numbers of kids that we could bring out.
We're really just trying to work on finding solutions that can bring sustainability to our watershed, both for our human communities and our wildlife and our fisheries. The partnership with CalTrout has been an excellent opportunity for the council. And so I think these types of opportunities where we can demonstrate and build partnerships is really going to be the way forward throughout the entire watershed as we try to tackle bigger and more important projects and really try to ward off some of the worst of what we think climate change might bring to our basin.
Caltrans thinks this is a really good opportunity to potentially partner and really show the state and the people that we ultimately work for an effective and efficient way to get some of these more environmentally friendly projects on the ground.
The tribe has long-term objectives to restore salmon, and I hope that I can, pass on some of the lessons I've learned to, future generations of biologists and tribal members.
NOAA Fisheries has a mandate to recover coho salmon under the Endangered Species Act. In a place like the Scott Valley, the majority of these prime habitat areas, these priority locations that we want to implement restoration projects, they're owned by private landowners. And so it is critical that we work with CalTrout and our private landowner partners to implement our recovery plan, restore these lands, and do whatever we can to get coho back into this basin and meet those recovery objectives.
In 4 years, with the funding that we're going to be requesting from our partners, we plan to completely transform this watershed into a high-profile, very productive fisheries producing system. The water quality is there, the fish are here, and we know that we're going to have great success, not only with the results, but also with the partnership base that we've created.